Hi, ArcfieldWeather.com meteorologist Paul Dorian here on Monday morning, July 11th. Generally an overall continuation of the weather pattern we've been having for the last couple of weeks with the very hot weather kind of suppressed to the south and maybe the central part of the nation. It will tend to expand out in the west. Meanwhile, the mid-Atlantic, the northeast U.S., not that bad for the middle part of the month of July. We'll have temperatures generally in the 80s today for afternoon highs in places like D.C., Philadelphia, New York City. Then an approaching cold front can spark a few strong thunderstorms later tomorrow night. That front tends to kind of stall out in the southern mid-Atlantic and the southeastern part of the nation during the second half of the work week. Tropics, not all that active. There is one kind of tropical system right now we'll talk about over the next couple of minutes here. It is over the southeastern U.S. It will tend to drift towards the Gulf of Mexico over the next 24 to 48 hours or so. This is a look at the total precipitation outlook depicted by NOAA for the next 3 days between this morning, Monday morning, and Thursday morning. First of all, up in the northeast, mid-Atlantic region, this is basically a result of an approaching cold front on Tuesday and Tuesday night. Again, it could spark a few strong thunderstorms later tomorrow into tomorrow night, and that is the reason for the rainfall amounts depicted here for the next few days. Meanwhile, down in the southeastern part of the nation to the Gulf of Mexico, again, we'll see in a moment here, there's kind of a tropical system sitting right in this part of the nation right now. It'll drift to the south towards the Gulf of Mexico. We'll have to keep our eye on it, see if it actually moves over the water and has a chance to develop intensify over the next couple of days. Whether it does or not, it'll produce quite a bit of rainfall along the northern Gulf Coast. Meanwhile, still kind of a continuation of a monsoonal flow of air with some moisture pushing northward into the Four Corners region of the nation, the four states surrounding that particular point. Moisture from the Pacific Ocean pushing into the southwestern U.S. Again, a monsoonal type of seasonal wind flow here, a little bit earlier than normal. It's set up really last month, but it continues this month, and typically it's more of an August type of a setup here for the southwestern states. But again, some rainfall amounts over the next 3 days in that part of the country. Well, in terms of the tropics in the Atlantic Basin, not a heck of a lot going on. Still rather quiet as we approach the middle part of July. Again, there is kind of a tropical wave sitting right over the southeastern part of the nation. It'll tend to drift to the south and west over the next 24 to 48 hours or so, dumping a lot of rainfall right along the northern Gulf Coast, and we'll have to keep our eye on it, see if it actually makes it out over the water and then excuse me, has a chance to intensify during the mid to latter part of this week. Well, let's take a look at last night's 0Z operational run of the GFS. And again, the pattern has been very hot weather across the south central states, extending to the southeastern part of the nation, an occasional incursion of that hot weather all the way to the north, to the upper Midwest or the northern plains. But meanwhile, in the northeastern part of the nation, notice here kind of a continuation in the upper part of the atmosphere of a northwesterly flow that has inhibited the chance for a sustained heat wave. Places like D.C., Philadelphia, New York City, Boston. It looks like that general overall pattern will continue over the next week because we'll have a couple of frontal systems dropping from the northwest to the southeast into the mid-Atlantic region, into the northeast U.S. over the next several days. That will keep the chance of any sustained heat limited in the mid-Atlantic, the northeastern quadrant of the nation. Meanwhile, a lot of hot weather out over the south central states. Let's move forward again. Focus in on this wave of vorticity aloft. Drops to the south and east certainly can spark a few strong thunderstorms tomorrow afternoon, evening, mid-Atlantic, northeast U.S. Hot weather kind of suppressed down to the southern states, really from the southwest all the way to the southeast. And here's a reflection of that, what could become a tropical wave by later on in the week as it drops to the south and west over the northern Gulf Coast. But keep going past this time period. We go into the latter part of the work week. Again, the hottest weather confined to the south, and the high pressure tends to shift from the south central states to the southwestern U.S., and that heat will therefore expand to the west. Meanwhile, still, frontal passages from a northwest to southeast, cutting across the Great Lakes, the Mid-Atlantic, northeastern part of the nation, that will continue rather decent weather conditions, that part of the country, over the next several days. Well, let's now take a look at the 850 millibar temperature anomalies. Hot weather, middle part of the nation, but cooler than normal conditions as we start the new work week here in Philly, D.C., New York City, Boston. It does get quite warm by tomorrow afternoon. Again, with the approaching cold front, there can be a shower or thunderstorm, probably the 90s for afternoon highs on Tuesday. And here is, right in this area right here, is that next cold frontal system. You see kind of a delineation here. Cooler than normal air to the north and west, warmer than normal air to the south and east. That front can spark a few strong thunderstorms late tomorrow night, but then another decent air mass pushes in for the middle of the week. It prevents any kind of a sustained heat wave with this kind of a northwesterly flow aloft. Here we are now all the way into the latter part of the week, into the Friday morning time period. Still some cooler than normal air over the Great Lakes and northeastern part of the nation. Hottest weather looks like confined to the western half of the nation for the second half of the week. Well, let's wrap up with the surface maps, and some rainfall already along the northern Gulf Coast region and across the south central part of Canada, the northern Great Lakes associated with the frontal system. Will move forward here, and this rainfall down here could really intensify over the next 24 to 48 hours or so over the northern Gulf Coast, with an actual system that drifts to the south and west towards the open waters of the northern Gulf Coast. Here we are on Tuesday morning, and the next cold front approaching the Mid-Atlantic region, cutting across the Ohio Valley. Again, just ahead of it, it can get pretty hot tomorrow, probably highs between 90 and 95, places like D.C., Philadelphia, New York City after the 80s today. And that front, again, can spark a few strong thunderstorms during the p.m. hours on Tuesday. That's Tuesday afternoon, Tuesday evening. It moves on by right here by the time we get to late tomorrow night into Wednesday morning. Then it tends to stall out, and it can keep some unsettled conditions. It really kind of stalls out in this region here. That'll keep the weather somewhat unsettled across the Carolinas, the southeastern states, even in the Mid-Atlantic region during the second half of the week. This high pressure over the Great Lakes will try to take control, but you can see kind of a scattering of some showers possible later in the week, let's say the Thursday time frame, again with a kind of a stalled out frontal system right across the Carolinas, affecting the southeastern states all the way up to the Mid-Atlantic region, right into the day on Thursday and even into Friday. Still some scattered precipitation we'll have to watch out for, despite the fact that this high pressure system will try to take control for the second half of the work week in the northeastern part of the nation. So still not all that active on the tropical scene. We'll continue to monitor this particular system now over the landmass of the southeast U.S. It'll kind of push to the south and the west over the next 48 hours. Could end up over the Gulf of Mexico. Whether it intensifies into a named tropical system or not doesn't matter so much in terms of some pretty decent rainfall along the northern Gulf Coast over the next 72 hours or so. That's it for now. For ArcfieldWeather.com, I'm meteorologist Paul Dorian.